Hello everybody, welcome to my video series on Microsoft Excel 2016. This video is going to be a little different than my Microsoft Word videos. In the past with Microsoft Word, I just went ahead and started with the modules, just because a lot of people are usually a little bit familiar with Microsoft Word just starting out. Excel, in my previous experience, I've had students that look at this and they're like, oh no, when do I switch out of this class? It's really not it's more intimidating than it actually is. It's a completely different piece of software than Microsoft Word. This isn't something you're going to write reports in or business letters or put your resume in or make flyers. This deals with data. So if you're a math-based person, this is going to be for you. It's a great way to represent information, to manipulate information, to show information in different ways. You might use this in like some sort of a loan analysis or a personal budget, or back in the day, teachers used to use this for an actual grade book, like keeping their grade book, before we had that grade book software like Focus. So it's to manipulate data. I personally use it for my students regarding industry certifications. So my students practice in geometrics. I track their scores using Excel. So if they have 6 tests they have to do and I want at least 4 90%, then I can see on my list how many 90% they have, or if I wanted an average of a 90% across all their scores, I could put in a formula showing the average of those scores. Like for example, I can kind of show you how that works with Excel. So if I had John, Mike, and Susie, and they take 3 tests. What I can do is I can give them, say John got an 87 on test 1, test 2 he got 100, and test 3 he slightly got a 73. Mike is not a good test taker, so he does 55, 60, 62. Susie is getting 100, 97, 95. So I could use a formula in this software that can calculate the average. So if you're not familiar, an average is where you add all 3 of those scores and then you divide it by the number of scores that there are to have the average score. So instead of taking out my calculator and going 87 plus 100 plus 73 divided by 3, I'm going to write a formula. And we're not going to do this right now, obviously, but I want to show you how it's used. So I could type in equals average, and then I can select the cells I want to average, and there you go. Press enter, there's my average. So I don't have to use a calculator. So what this could do is it could also reduce errors. So Excel's a really wonderful application, especially when you're dealing with numbers, and it's used in the workforce all the time. I'm sure probably some of your parents have used it as well, or family members. Okay, so as you can see, this is a little bit different than Microsoft Word. We've got A, B, C, D, E, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So think of it as a big table. Even though you can create tables in Excel, you're dealing with rows and columns and cells. So the intersection between a column and a row is something called a cell. So if I ask you to put information in a specific cell, there's really no margin or room for error there. You either put it in that cell or you don't. So for example, if I wanted you to put your name in A1, A1, Mr. Felt. Okay, that's in cell A1. Okay, it's not in H1, it's not in A4, it's there. So everyone should be the same. If I wanted you to insert the date, I could say insert the date in D1, 1/6/2018. Okay, or if you wanted to get really creative, you could do equals today. and there you go. It's the same thing. So it's different. In Word, we called things documents. Excel doesn't do documents. It's not what Excel does. It's a spreadsheet application software, or a spreadsheet application. So you're dealing with spreadsheets. So if you look up at the top here, it says Book 1. What that means is the entire Excel file is called a workbook. Inside a workbook, you have one or more worksheets. So if I say to create a worksheet inside this workbook, you would either use this sheet or you would create a new sheet, creating a new tab. So the cool thing is with that is you can have one file for multiple things. So for me, I use this with my lesson plans. So I'll create like a calendar in Excel, and it'll show. Actually, I probably can just do this right now. I'll show you what I use. Let's go to File, Open, and we're going to go to Lesson Plans here. So if you excuse me, it's going to take a little bit. Okay, so you can see with my Cybersecurity Essentials class, I use Excel with different weeks. So like the week of August 7th, obviously we didn't have any school until that Thursday. We have rules and procedures. Then this August 14th, I've got, I gave assignment, lecture. So that's what I use. That is in my Cyber 2 sheet. For DIT, you can see these are all of my lesson plans for DIT. For Cyber 1, you can see all of my lessons for Cyber 1. So this is all inside one file. Lesson plans 2017, 2018. That's what I use. Another example would be someone that works in that manages McDonald's, different types of McDonald's. Obviously, there's not just one McDonald's out there. There's different locations. So I could create a sheet showing all the revenue for the Clearwater McDonald's. I could show the revenue for the Palm Harbor McDonald's. I could show the revenue in the sheet for the Safety Harbor McDonald's, or for the Tarpon Springs McDonald's, and so on. So everything's within that same workbook. So I can open up one file and I've got all of my information there, instead of having multiple documents or a document with multiple pages. So it's really nice because it's really easy to look at. It's very user friendly. So that's that. So what I want you to do is I'm going to create an example of Excel, and I just want you to follow along and type the same things I type, just to get yourself a little feel for the program. Obviously, we're going to be getting into this tomorrow with the module and the textbook, but for right now, I just kind of want you to play around with it. So what I want you to do is at the top here, A1, first of all, I'm going to delete these extra sheets because we don't need them. Okay, what I want you to do is at the top here, I want you to type your name. So my name is Mr. Felt. Okay, then in B1, and what I just did there is I use the arrow keys on my keyboard to move around. You can do that, or you can just click. It's really nice like that. Or if you want to take the long way around, you can type in the name box up here. So if I wanted to go to A4, I can navigate there. So it's up to you. So in B1, what I want you to do is put your class period. So I'm going to put in period 4. Then in C1, put in the date. So right now, today for me, it's the 6th, but for you, it'll be the 8th. But I'll just put down the 8th to make things simple. 1/8/2018. Oops. And we're just going to go to D1. We're just going to type in practice. So this is not the header by any means. You can actually insert a header in Excel, but I don't want to go too much in depth and get you confused. So we're just going to do this right now. What I want you to do is now I want you to take D and E, okay, click on both, you'll see we've got practice. Actually, in D, we're going to change this to Microsoft Excel practice. Okay, and what you'll see is when you type, it's a little bit bigger than a cell. So it just kind of goes into this other cell. Now, if I type in E1, if I just type in really anything, you'll notice there's not enough room. So if you type something in E1, then just delete it. Okay, so this kind of it kind of runs into the other cells, and it only does that if the other cells are empty. So what I would do here is take cells D1 through F1, okay, and select it. So you're going to hold down the left mouse button and select it. You're going to go up to here to do merge and center. Okay, so it's very similar to how tables you would merge and center, or merge different cells in a specific row, or different columns. That's a little bit like that. Now, what you can do is you can change the font up here, just like you could with any other file. You can change the style. What I'm going to do, and what I suggest you do as well, is click on Microsoft Excel Practice, go where it says More here, go to Title. And you'll see that this cell is still not big enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to go up to where it says F here, and we're going to change the width to be a little bigger. Okay, or we can do something called Best Fit. So we can click here, double click. It's not working. Why is this not working? Oh, it's because it's just one cell. Okay, I'll show you how to do it here in a second. Okay, so that is the, you can change the width. All right, so what I want you to do is create, oops, I just dropped something. Create a practice budget. So let's just say you are out of high school and you're living on your own. So type in rent in A3. Okay, so we're going to talk about renting an apartment. You decide to buy a car. So we're going to do transportation. Okay, we all like Netflix. Electric. Water. We gotta eat, so food. Internet, because we all like to surf the web on our devices. If you're a gamer, you might decide to pay for, we're not gonna get there because that's annual. I don't want to mess that one up. Let's see, rent, transportation, Netflix, electric, water, food, internet. We'll just call that for right now. Oh, we'll do entertainment. Here we go, entertainment. Okay, so we've got some categories here. And like I said, right over here, you have them bleeding over to the next column. So what I was going to show you before, that I didn't get to because it didn't work right, is you're going to go up to where the A column is, and you could make this a little bit bigger. But what I want you to do instead is double click it, and it will go to the best fit. Okay, so it has your name up here, and then you've got your row headings here. Okay, now we're going to go to B2 and we're going to type in expense. Okay, and we're going to type in the expense for each one of these. Okay, so rent, we'll say $600 a month. Okay, what you could do is you could do the $600. Or you could just type in 600, and if it's in the right number format, it'll change. We've got different number formats. We've got currency, which is like money. You can change it to accounting. With accounting, the number sign is pushed all the way to the left. We've got percentage. Okay, obviously that's not what we're looking at. Fraction, number, and you can take the decimals off the number if you want. So we're just going to do currency. We'll keep it at that. Transportation, if you have a car, say for example you buy a used car and you're paying $100 a month for that, obviously that's not really accurate. It's probably a little higher than that, but we'll just call it that. Netflix is $10 a month. Electric is, I think I messed something up with this. Oops. Okay, there you go. Electric could be $50 a month. Water could be $25 a month. Food, you like your food, so we'll say $150. Internet, probably $50 a month. Entertainment, you like to go out a month, so we'll just say $100 a month. Okay, so now we're like, okay, I could get a calculator and I could add this all up. Well, what you also could do is do something that's really cool in Excel. So in A12, we're going to type in total. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sum up everything here. So I'm going to go up here to formulas. Oh, actually, we don't have to do that. We have an Autosum. So we'll go over here to the editing group, and there's an Autosum button. And you click on it, and it says, okay, I'm going to take the sum of B3 through B11. Okay, that's what that column, or that colon means. It says B3 through B11. If you wanted to do certain cells, like, say, for example, I want B3, you do comma, and then B6, and then comma, and then B9, and then it would just do the sum for those. But I want to do B3 through B11. Now, you're probably thinking, why am I summing up values from an empty cell? Well, an empty cell has a default value of 0. So it's not going to affect you in any way. So once you have that all set up, you're going to press enter, and the sum is $1,085 a month in expenses. So that's that. That's the really cool thing with Excel. It really saves your time, and it makes it to where you don't have mistakes. I mean, think about it. Like if you're using Excel for a business, something that deals with your budgeting or your sales or your expenses, you want to make sure you're accurate, as accurate as possible, because those little mistakes, you might have to end up filling up those mistakes. Like there's a huge difference between $6 and $600. So it's very important you get information accurate. And with a calculator, some of these spreadsheets, you can go down rows upon rows upon rows upon rows upon rows upon rows and so on. And there's no limit really. There is a limit if it's a huge number. But you could have all those numbers. You're not going to have the time in your calculator to sum up all of those or take the average of all of those or whatnot. You're going to want to use a quick and efficient way. The really cool things about formulas as well is you can change something and it'll automatically update. So let's just say that this is a month from now and Netflix changes its price again. So what I want you to do is go on your $10 here, change it to 11. And then press enter. Notice it keeps the same format because we gave it that format. And look, it changed. If it was $10.50, it changed. Oopsies. Okay, so it all automatically changes for you, so you don't have to recalculate. Alright, so we're going to give total a different style as well. So I want you to select A12 through B12. And you're going to go over here to where it says more, and we're going to give it a total style. Okay, then I want you to bold your name. I want you to italicize your date. I want you to select A3 through A10, and I want you to change the style to heading 4. Then for expense, I want you to change that to heading 4 as well. Okay, and then we'll change the font of these to, say, green. Okay, so that's pretty much the basics of Microsoft Excel. Like I said, there's so much you can do with it. I mean, I could take this and I could insert a graph. I could show how much I actually spend compared to my actual budget and show it off in a graph. I could say, for example, I showed off the commission that, or the sales that some of my workers make, and I could calculate bonus pay. I could use an Excel formula to say, okay, if they sold within this like $0 to $5,000, they might be able to get a 5% commission or 5% bonus. If they sold between 5,000 to 10,000, they could get a 10% bonus. I could illustrate all of that in Microsoft Excel and use formulas to calculate that for me. Like I said, it's a huge time saver. We can insert pictures, we can insert shapes, smart art, just like you could in Microsoft Word. But graphs and formulas are a biggie in this one. Let's see, we can still change the margins, we can still change the orientation. So if you're familiar with the ribbon in Microsoft Word, it's going to be easier for you to navigate this because it's the same kind of layout, but there's different functions. It does different things. What I would do is make sure you know this, because when it comes time for the certification, you're going to want to know what each one of these does, especially if you're doing Excel Expert, because Excel Expert goes into the nitty-gritties and the formulas within a formulas within a formulas. So it does get pretty crazy. Another thing that I'm going to show you real quick is something called conditional formatting. What I can do with this is I can show this in a different way. You don't have to do this, don't worry about this, I'm just going to show you it. I can show this in a different way where certain values can be shown differently than other values. So I can click here and I can say, okay, I want to color all values less than $50 with red text, and I can say, okay, these are my not so expensive bills, and I can say everything over $50. We can say over $50 can be, I'll change it to blue. Okay, are more expensive, and you'll see that $50 wasn't shown there, and I can do equal to, but that's just an example of conditional formatting. So that's another really cool feature in Microsoft Excel. So, all right, so like I said, please make sure you finish this. You're gonna put this in your OneNote notebook in Excel. You're gonna print it there, and you're just gonna call it Microsoft Excel Practice. Tomorrow we are going to start Module 1, and you'll be practicing some of the same skills I showed you just now. So, okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.